with the 35th pick in the draft that the Raiders picked up from the Indianapolis Colts, the Las Vegas Raiders select the tight end out of Notre Dame, Michael Mayer. I am Tenitra Batiste, and we have Locked On Raiders host Q in the building now. This Locked On NFL draft coverage is presented by Ultimate Football GM. Do you think you can run an NFL franchise? Visit ultimate-gm.com to play the ultimate NFL GM simulation game and start your dynasty today. And obviously, the Raiders are looking to expand, evolve, enhance their dynasty, of course, with some of the moves that they are making, including Michael Mayer and giving Jimmy Garoppolo yet another weapon on offense. Again, the Raiders move up from 38 to 35 for that pick. Q, when you heard that, what was your first reaction?
It's funny, when I first heard the trade was going down and I knew that they were interested in trading back into the end of the first round and it just never materialized, I just knew that it was for a quarterback. So I thought, okay, they're going to go and make a move for Hendon Hooker. And yeah, Jimmy G is the quarterback right now, but we all believe at some point that they got to get a quarterback of the future. So I just thought that the move was going to be for Hendon Hooker. Then all of a sudden to find out that they pulled the trigger on a guy who arguably could be the best tight end in the class, and Michael Mayer, who I was actually shocked was still there in the second round and available, So that was a big time move by GM Dave Ziegler and company. And I just feel like that they were very patient on night one, where, like I said, they wanted to move into the back end of round one. They didn't do it. Obviously, the price of business was too high. They end up negotiating with the Colts and not really giving up a whole lot. Pick 141. They came into this draft with 12 draft picks. So, I mean, giving up one pick at 141 to move up a couple spots is not bad at all for a guy that, one, fills a position of need, is a very talented guy, still on the board, and now they are able to replace Darren Waller, who they sent to the New York Giants in the offseason.
Yeah, when you don't have to give up a lot of draft capital to get a guy like that, especially like you said, when you lose a guy like Darren Waller, yes, advantage to the Raiders. Now, want to talk a little bit about Michael Mayer as well. Of course, his pre-draft analysis, he's one of those tight ends who's an excellent route runner. He's got the ability to create separation, kind of actually operates in the guise of a wide receiver. What are some of the attributes, like you said, we thought he may even go in the first round? What are some of the best attributes that you think he brings to the table for this Raiders offense?
Two things he does really well. He's able to catch the ball with soft hands, which of course is what you need to have, right? I mean, he has really good hands, as you mentioned, is running really good routes, but he's also a very good blocker, right? And that's the one thing, and I don't want to throw any shade at Darren Waller. He was a great dynamic player, and I'm not saying Michael Mayer is going to be as dynamic as him, but he lacked the ability to block like Michael can. And so that's the good thing. That's what Josh McDaniels wants. He wants a guy that's going to be able to block and seal the edge and allow a guy like Josh Jacobs to get outside and get some extra yards. And, so that's just one of those elements that he brings to the table. And you remember when Josh McDaniels was at his best, when he was, running the offense there in New England, he had a 2 tight end set with 2 really good tight ends, one in Gronk and one in Aaron Hernandez. So Gronk is a Hall of Famer, so I don't want to say that this is his version of Gronk, but this is a guy that has really good ability. He comes from a school with big time, like they have history, Notre Dame.
Yes.
It's Notre Dame. I really don't have to say too much more about him.
Right.
I mean, they're historical. And so, he's excited. We just jumped off of the Zoom call with him. He's fired up and pumped up to be a Raider. And he said, you know what? I don't feel like there's a better fit for me with Josh McDaniels in this offense. I think I'm going to thrive and do really well. So excited to see him get to work, get to Vegas and get to work.
Yeah. And you have the distinct privilege and kind of that insider information Q of being able to be on that call so quickly after Michael was drafted, and also just being there for the draft as well. What were some of the things did you have an opportunity to ask him and kind of get some assessment of exactly where or how he thinks he'll fit perfectly into that Raiders offense?
Yeah, we asked him that, and he said that he prides himself in continuing to get better, right? One of the answers that he gave that I thought was great, someone asked him, how do you feel like you fit into this offense? How do you think that, you're going to be able to put your best foot forward? And he said, you know what, that's not an answer. That's not a question for me to answer. That's for my coaches. I'm going to do whatever is asked for me to do, right? And so I felt like that was a real humble approach to it. He knows how good he is at certain areas and what he does really well. But just like his college coach, Marcus Freeman, said that this guy, he doesn't want to talk about what he does well. He wants to talk about what he doesn't do well so he can continue to improve in that area. So a guy that loves football, I mean, someone asked him, well, what do you want to do in Vegas outside of play football? He's like, man, I'm a football guy. I do football, I sleep, I eat, I football. I eat, I sleep, I football. So I mean, he's got the right mindset or approach headed to Vegas and everything. And so I think he's excited to be a member of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, and just having an opportunity to see what Austin Hooper can do up close and personal, having covered him with the Falcons, I certainly know that I certainly believe, I should say, that that's going to be a really complimentary tight end set for the Raiders. Now, of course, with the Raiders going with Tyree Wilson in that first round and deciding that, hey, that's the direction we want to go in from a defensive perspective, and then switching gears and going on the offensive side of the board, kind of looking ahead, Q, where do you see, especially in the third and maybe some of those later rounds, where do you see that maybe there can be some either, I'm going to ask one of two things, either them going best player available or needs. I believe in the case of a Michael Mayer, that kind of is probably both, but more so a best player available, because my goodness, you can't believe you actually can get him at 35. But when you look at some of those other rounds that are left with the other, 10 picks or 9 picks that they now have, where do you kind of see them going in the rest of the draft?
Well, I think that they'll turn their attention back to the defensive side of things. You know, I think that they need to address the linebacking core. They need to address the cornerbacks. I wouldn't be surprised to see them take 2 corners in a draft that's pretty deep in corners. So I think that they'll do that. And still, there's a quarterback. The big question about a quarterback: are they going to come out of this draft with a quarterback? I do believe that they will. We'll see. You know, which one they come out with. If it'll be a guy, you know, on Friday, day 2, or if there'll be a guy on Saturday. You know, but I do believe they'll get a quarterback, and they'll continue to address the defense, safety, corner, linebacker. All of it is needed. So they've got a lot of work to do, but they've so far done well with their first 2 picks.
Yeah, and I love what you're saying there, Q, because, yeah, honestly, when you're looking at the AFC West and what the Broncos are trying to do to give Russell Wilson some support, we already know what the Chiefs are capable of, as well as with the Chargers. So definitely when you're looking at them maybe possibly shoring up the secondary or even getting that front 7 a little bit stronger, there's probably maybe arguably not another division in all of the NFL that could utilize just that much support, because, wow, it's going to remain competitive. It just got more competitive over in the AFC West, and it's probably going to remain that way for this upcoming season. Going to be exciting to watch. So for more on the Raiders draft, please follow Locked On Raiders. Follow my guy Q. He's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. That's your team every day. Thanks a lot, and continue to enjoy the draft, Q.